Susan yells at me in Walmart over apple juice and demands both bottles. My mother had to visit Walmart a few days ago to pick up a prescription and some food. She detests Walmart. Hence, we usually attempt to move quickly. My brother and I went to hunt the few things we needed as she stood in line for the prescription. We arrived at the grocery store and got to work shopping. There were just 2 gallons of apple juice left when we at last arrived at the beverages section. As I went to pick them, a woman walked up and watched me grab them. Turning back, I asked her whether she was likewise searching for apple juice. She agreed. Thus, I gave her one. We would take the other. Things started to get fast. She wanted them. Hence, she instructed me to give her both of them. I reminded her once more that I would give her one. We would retain the other. She started asking that I give her both, as she wasn't satisfied with this. I told her no, flat out. Since my brother only wanted apple juice and is not good with conflict, he was not saying anything. "Ma'am, do you want this one or not?" I asked. "Just give me both," Susan said. How difficult should one find that to grasp? "I want both of them." Looking nervous, my brother interrupted her as she was beginning to create a scene and said, "Look, we're just trying to be nice." Susan jerked back. "I don't care. Just show me these. You are throwing away my time." I eventually grew bored with the debate. Out of spite, filled our cart with both of the apple juices. I spun around and pointed for my brother to follow. She started screaming, but we proceeded toward the front. Really, it was the dumbest thing ever. Arriving first, the narrator and his brother might have readily snatched both apple juice bottles without saying anything. Rather, they volunteered to give the woman one, and she turned straight forward and started screaming at them. She ended up obtaining 100% of nothing while wanting exactly 100% of the apple juice. Though it sounds like they were able to just walk away without any more problems, I find it surprising that Susan did not end up running after the narrator and his brother to do something further. Understanding the context of college financial aid policies, such as those governing refunds, is helpful for the next situation. Having only been here slightly over 2 months, I work at a financial aid office for a small private university. Because I have to learn topics about the financial aid application process I never would have believed I would need to know, including how FAFSA forms are handled, my work is difficult. Students must complete the FAFSA, a crucial document, to find out how much money they are qualified for to pay for college. Many times, this means students with scholarships, grants, or loans could receive a return check. The amount the student qualifies for and the amount the school deducts for tuition, classes, lodging, board, and other expenditures will determine how these checks turn out. Students occasionally will obtain thousands of dollars back. Be sure not to discuss how you intend to utilize a refund outside of class criteria for anyone who intends to obtain one, since it is policy to refuse to distribute money if it is knowingly used for items outside of school necessities. Once more, this context helps one grasp the events that followed. Though I work as a simple office assistant, my position as a financial aid assistant is one of knowledge, similar to a financial aid counselor. Yesterday, a young woman and her father entered the office. "Where is the person that's holding my kids' money hostage?" the man asked before I could welcome them. This man was plainly angry and bigger than me, so I got scared just from the intensity of his voice. I wanted to cry. "Sir, I can see if anyone's available to talk," I said. And he started yelling at me about how horrible the university was and how dare they keep his daughter's money like this. We are all women in our little office. My boss, the director of financial aid, the assistant director, and a student assistant. Turning to the open doorway, I found the assistant director looking unconcerned. "I can discuss her money with you and your daughter," she replied. It's worth noting that since we have no control over how refunds are distributed, one should first call the billing department, not the financial aid office, if seeking a refund. I heard everything discussed since the father and the girl entered the office and left the door open. Had I been led to document events for privacy concerns, which I wasn't, I would have noted this conversation. "How can I help you?" the assistant director asked. "What is happening?" the father added. "The refund for my kid was meant to arrive by the end of the week. It's Wednesday here, and her account does not show it." "Sir, please calm down," the assistant director said. Ignoring her, the dad said, "No, we utilize her money for our trip, hence, she needs it." The daughter piped in, "Dad, I'm not going on a trip." The dad said, "You are indeed. Remember, we are heading to Disney World." Knowing this, the assistant director remarked, "So, you're using your refund to pay for a trip outside of school?" "No, I'm not," the daughter objected. But the dad cut her off, declaring, "Yes, she is. We now need it since she pledged to pay the deposit with that money. Sir, I must tell you that I cannot let this money be released, as you have just told me your daughter will be using it for things outside of school. Please do not modify it," the dad said. "What? She can spend her money any way she wants and do anything with it," the assistant director clarified. "You only have this money for purchases connected to school. Using it otherwise is regarded as fraud, a wrong use of money. Generally, one should never notify the financial aid office of vacation plans or act confrontationally. While you can typically utilize your return money any way you like, and most financial aid offices have no particular interest in how you use your refund, openly stating non-educational use, especially related to fraud concerns, can cause issues." I was still at my desk trying to seem as though I was not hearing this, but this man went crazy. I swear I picked up more foul words from him in that one instant than I have in 27 years. Though she wouldn't be getting her money, the daughter was also unhappy. I dropped my head as they left the building. Not too long afterward, I got up to visit my assistant director. "Hey, are you okay?" I asked. She nodded. However, she obviously needed some alone time. I don't blame her. That guy was really scary, and I doubt we will hear from him very soon either. Man, if they hadn't obviously declared they would be using the money for Disneyland, it sounds like they could have really been able to help them. The fact that they intended to pay for the trip for everyone else using the daughter's money also seems strange. I sensed that the choice was made for her. Still, it was quite a poor decision for the dad to freely admit to utilizing the funds for Disneyland. Why would you even say it? Even if it wasn't against policy. Whichever the money is for, what difference counts? In this instance, it allowed the assistant director a simple way out from handling the matter entirely. Though the assistant director explicitly addressed it as a possibility, they believed the dad might keep returning, but could also be terrified of anything involving fraud. That's really significant. My sister-in-law secretly DNA tested my adopted daughter and accused me of raising an affair baby, so I laughed in her face. When I was 30, I adopted my daughter, who is now 6. I am not biologically related to her at all. There is no blood relation between us. I was friends with her mother for most of my childhood. We were never involved romantically and were always just friends. She had her daughter at 23 with her 25-year-old husband. When my daughter was a newborn, about 3 months old technically, both her mother and father were killed. I won't go into too much detail for privacy reasons, but it was a workplace shooting. My friend and her husband had worked in the same building and were both killed. Both my friend and her husband had grown up with less than ideal families and didn't have any siblings, so there wasn't any next of kin for their daughter to go to. However, because I was close with them, I was able to adopt her. Even though I had been iffy about the idea of kids, I didn't want their daughter to grow up in foster care or around people who didn't have a connection to her biological parents, so I stepped in. My parents and siblings know that my daughter is not my actual daughter biologically speaking. My daughter, Maya, also knows that she's adopted. I never really hid the fact that she was adopted. She knows her parents are dead and were killed by a bad man, but I'm saving the details for when she's older. Maya does not look like me at all. She looks exactly like her mother and biological dad. Most people assume that I'm her biological dad and that she just took after her mom. I don't ever really correct this when and if people assume this because it just seems unnecessary. My brother has been with his fiancée for about 2 years now. A few weeks ago, we were all meeting up at my parents' house, and my sister-in-law saw an old picture of me, my friend, and her husband. She pointed to my friend and asked who she was, and I explained that it was Maya's mother. My sister-in-law got quiet and stood in front of the picture for a while. I didn't think much of it. To clarify, she knows my friend died, but I guess didn't know that she had been married or that Maya is not my biological daughter. I suppose she assumed my daughter was mine and my friend's biological daughter. My sister-in-law got a DNA test done on my daughter behind my back. She used my brother's DNA for the test, and when it came back that they weren't related, she knew that meant Maya and I weren't related. She came up to me with the results and waved them in my face, saying that I was taking care of a dead woman's affair baby. She said this to me in front of my daughter. I just stared at her for a while before bursting out laughing at this. I told her I knew Maya wasn't my biological daughter and that this thing called adoption exists. Her face went red and she stormed off. My brother is mad I embarrassed his fiancée, but I said she embarrassed herself by DNA testing a kid that isn't hers and then parading the results up to me. What did she want me to do? What was her goal with this? Did she want me to break down and abandon my daughter? My brother said she thought she was doing the right thing and called me an unkind name. I don't feel like one, especially considering my sister-in-law was the one who stuck her nose where it didn't belong. I can see how she assumed that Maya's mother and I were together. In the picture, I had my arm around her shoulders. This was before my friend was married to her husband. At the time that picture was taken, they were just friends. I'm doing my best to raise Maya with the values and beliefs her mother and biological dad had and wanted to raise her with, even if some of them differ a bit from my own. Regarding the DNA test my sister-in-law took for my daughter, I believe they were doing one of those home DNA kits, though I don't know what company they did it through. She wanted to stir something up. That's a hell of a lot of effort to help. Also, I'd be pissed about how she got Maya's DNA to do this. It didn't go the way she thought it would, so she got mad. My brother is just trying to side with his soon-to-be wife. Later, the full story emerged. My brother thought I had been having an affair with Maya's mom and thought I was Maya's biological dad. He tricked his fiancée into believing that I was in a relationship with Maya's mom and was Maya's biological dad. His fiancée then saw the picture of Maya's mom and her husband and assumed Maya was an affair child between the two of them and that I was being led on to believe that I was Maya's biological dad. My sister-in-law ended up coming to my house and apologizing, as well as telling me the full story. My brother put her up to the DNA test. When I first adopted Maya, my brother, for some reason, believed that Maya was my biological daughter. He thought that Maya's mom and I were together and just weren't telling anyone. He believes that when she got pregnant, Maya's mom told me that Maya was mine and that she was going to just say that it was her husband's, and I went along with it because I didn't really want kids. His fiancée was under the impression I believed I was Maya's biological dad. She saw the picture of Maya's mom and I and, after asking for clarification on who she was, assumed we were together in it. Then she got suspicious when she saw that the other guy in the picture, Maya's actual biological dad, looked a lot like Maya. I also want to clarify I didn't tell her that Maya's biological dad was in the picture because she had specifically pointed to Maya's mom, and I assumed she knew that Maya was adopted. I didn't know my brother had been telling her lies for nearly 2 years. She got the DNA test out of her own suspicions, and my brother helped her with it because he thought it would reveal that I was actually Maya's biological dad. He manipulated her into thinking that it would clear the air of suspicion when really he was just trying to prove that I was really Maya's biological dad and lying about the reasons for adoption. Well, of course, the results proved I wasn't Maya's biological dad and that my brother was wrong. My brother felt too embarrassed to confess to his fiancée that he had lied about the circumstances, which is why his fiancée confronted me with the results. My sister-in-law also apologized for showing me the results in front of my daughter. She told me that her mom had an affair and cheated on her father, got pregnant with another man's kid, and had let her father believe the kid was his. Her father was devastated by this when he found out, and she grew very resentful of women who do that to their spouses. She had wanted to sit me down and talk to me about it without my daughter, but when she saw me with my daughter, she got angry, thinking I was being led on to believe I was raising my daughter when I was actually raising another man's kid, and she ended up exploding and immediately waved the results in my face. My sister-in-law does feel very guilty, and she's angry at my brother for lying to her. I'm not angry at her for doing the test, because she thought she was doing the right thing. I also forgave her for the way she told me about the results because clearly affairs are a sensitive subject for her, and I can understand why she would have exploded like that. I'm pretty sure she plans to break up with my brother now, and I don't blame her. When I called and asked my brother about this, he admitted it. When I asked why he would think this, he said that he couldn't think of a reason why a man who had been against having kids at the time would willingly adopt a baby without having a blood connection to it. He told his fiancée that I was Maya's biological dad and was aware of the fact. He took it a step further and said that Maya's mom and I were together at the time of Maya's conception. Both me and my parents have been in low contact with my brother for a while now. I know I will forgive my brother eventually, but I can't do that right now. He believed I was low enough to have an affair with a married woman, get her pregnant, take no responsibility, allow her to pass off the kid as another man's, and then only take responsibility because her mom died. Regarding how Maya is handling all of this, she was initially confused, and I had to explain what my sister-in-law had said in terms she would understand. She was angry my sister-in-law would think that of her mom, and I had to explain that she had been lied to and didn't think that anymore. She's not mad at her anymore, but doesn't want to ever talk to her uncle again. Since adopting Maya, yes, I can admit that I'm definitely a lot softer. Becoming a father made me have to finally be mature, something I wasn't in my 20s when I adopted her. Some felt both my brother and sister-in-law were getting off too lightly, pointing out he lied and she violated privacy. However, I really want to stress this point. I'm not mad at my sister-in-law because I know she was manipulated into doing this by my brother. I wish more people could understand that. My brother is really showing his whole self here. He was both a terrible sibling and partner. He riled up his fiancée based on her trauma in order to enlist her to help in deceiving me. Awful. In a further update, my sister-in-law is now my ex-sister-in-law. I don't know if multiple updates are usually allowed, but some people were wondering what happened to my brother and his fiancée. Well, she dumped him. They tried to make it work, but that only lasted a few days, and she ended up giving him the ring back. My brother got shit-faced drunk on my front lawn in the middle of the night. I was pissed because Maya had school the next morning, and this woke her up. My brother was yelling insults to both my daughter and me. We called the police, and he spent the night in jail for drunken disturbance. I believe the official charge was something like that. I sure as hell pressed charges because he was saying some borderline threatening statements to me and my daughter. I don't think it's enough to qualify for a restraining order, but if it is, I'll get a temporary one. On a more positive note, Maya is doing well. She's getting straight A's in even subjects and is excited about her first ever science project. She's been talking my ear off about it. It's unfortunate that my brother reacted so poorly to the breakup, but it's great that I'm prioritizing Maya's well-being and ensuring her safety. Hopefully, my brother gets the help he needs to deal with his emotions in a healthier way.